And that's what the blabbermouth bump is. What's going on, everybody? This is the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
As we were getting ready to record this, apparently the interview with Rob from Skid Row made its way onto blabbermouth.net. So they linked to the interview and getting a whole bunch of eyeballs on that particular piece of content this week.
Welcome, new blabbermouthers. Is that a thing?
Maybe. I don't know.
Blabbermouthonians?
Yes. But yeah, it's funny because as we were wrapping up the conversation, I was trying to be very conscious of the way I was asking things because there's some drama around that. So I was just like, hopefully this went on Blabbermouth, and it did.
Yeah, so. There you go.
Oh, well. Well, how's it going?
Good. Coming down off the first gig I've had in a little bit last night, which was going to be a full band gig, but rain happened. Yep. And so we're going to come back to this, but it's that season. We need to talk about weather.
Yeah. And we were talking about it this week, but I think we've got something else that's a bit more pressing. So if you've got any specific questions around how to approach weather contingencies in performing, email us, coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. We'll bank those for this week and then talk about it next week.
Yep. Or horror stories. Always love a good horror story.
Of course.
Yeah. So our horror story, of course, was that it was looking to be rainy all day long. Actually, from the night before, it was going to rain all through the setup and tear down, pretty much all the way through. And then that morning, I had an opening to go collect gear from the storage unit, and I did that. And at that time, it was clear. It was super clear that it was going to be raining all night. Mm-hmm. So I only loaded up for the inside version of our show, which was going to be an acoustic duo. Taylor and me, we decided, not Charlie this time, because she and I haven't done an acoustic show together since we realized a pool club event in Greensboro a year ago. It was last time she and I played together alone, so it was good. It's good to have her back. But as the afternoon went on, the forecast progressed, and it got less and less likely that there would be rain, and I started getting more and more input on the call I'd made from band members, opining that I had called it early, and from the venue. Hey, liking these odds. She sent me a screenshot that was like in the 40% range of probable rain. Just like, I don't like those odds. I don't like those at all. Anyway, as I was setting up, the bottom fell out and it rained all night, and I was vindicated. But I wished I hadn't been. I wished we'd done the full band. It would have been super fun. We realized Charlie, my drummer, came because he had invited some people who were there, and he wanted to come hang out with them while we played. And we were chatting during the break and realized that even the one time we played there as an electric project, we weren't the full band. We didn't have Taylor. It was a 3-piece version. So we've never actually played there as the full band, despite I've done, I don't know how many hours there inside acoustic. And I have great relationship with the booker there. We've been rained out every time we try to do it. So definitely get those rain stories into us, or snow, or hail, or sharknadoes.
Yes. I would love to hear the story about how a Sharknado ruined your gig.
For sure. And if not, then Sharknado 2 would have done it. Anyway, it was good. Now, one of the things about this show was, and I've shared about my adventures in podiatry on the cast in the last few weeks, I promised my podiatrist, which for those of you not in the know is a foot doctor, my feet are in bad shape, I promised him I would try gigging sitting down. And I bought a stool that is tall enough that I'm not like sitting down when I'm on it. I'm kind of sitting up on it, but I'm not as tall as I would be standing, obviously, but I'm not down in a chair either. And I did play the first whole set like that. And the first set was we went probably an hour 45 of the 3-hour show in that first set. And it was hard. I never got comfortable. Reaching pedals and balancing myself, putting a foot up on a rung of the stool and having my knees be up, it just felt weird. And I couldn't get a good position that wasn't like perched on the ledge of it, and then my butt started to hurt, and then like at the break I put it away, and I just did the second set, shorter set on my feet, and in this morning, my feet do not hurt like they often do post gig. It was a better experience foot wise, but interesting new sitting muscles are sore. Interesting new sort of butt and groin and lower back muscles got to work out they're not used to. So there's no silver bullet here. I'm just gonna have to practice on it and get comfortable on it. I do think, at least for acoustic, it probably is the clear thing to do. I'm a little unclear about how I would integrate it into the full rock show. It's really not the vibe, but we'll see. Next weekend I have a karaoke show on Friday and a solo acoustic on Saturday. So it'll be a good solid 6 hours of butt time on the stool, and we'll just see how we do.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really interesting. Your story is very similar to my story this week. As you kind of went through all of the details, it got more and more interesting because they were overlapping so much. So we were supposed to play 2 gigs this week. The first one was a Throwback Thursday event that was put on by the radio station. That was the thing that was getting a lot of press on the airwaves and on social media. They put some ad buy behind it. So, we were going into it really, excited. I was going to use the Maestro DMX for the first time.
Cool.
And the only catch really is that it's an uncovered stage. So if weather goes sideways, like there's no contingency really.
Yeah.
So we show up to the venue and it's raining. And so we park underneath. It's this interesting kind of development where like everything is subterranean parking. So you park down in the deck and then you walk up like stairs to street level. And we just went into this wine bar and I call my contact and they're like, yeah, it's looking kind of iffy. It was, I think 3:30 at the time. They're like, we'll call it at 5. And so
what time is downbeat?
It would have been 7. So we would have had enough time.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there and we had a couple beverages. It was our guitar player Joey's birthday. So, we hung out for a bit and it was fine. And then we look at the weather and it was looking like it's clearing up. And so like, okay, it's a go. So we pull all of our gear out. We're all set up. We're about ready to start doing actual sound check. And this cell just pops up right like within eye shot of the stage. Yeah. Amber goes over and talks to him and they finally are like, okay, we need to make this decision now. And you've got less than 30 minutes to get everything off of the stage and put away before you guys get soaked. And so we go, okay. We played one song. We turned everything on. We're like, we got here. We were all set up. We might as well do a sound check. So we played Hit Me With Your Best Shot and then just immediately started scrambling to put all of our stuff back. And the skies opened up as I was walking the last thing to the vehicle.
Yeah.
And then we stuck around and had dinner because, it was...
There you were.
It's very rare the band gets to be together socially outside of work things.
Right.
So I was like, hell, I'll buy you guys dinner. And we hung out for a bit. And it was great.
That's
it was a lot of fun.
That's good.
The next thing, though, is that we played last night. We played Saturday at the Southern Fried Gaming Expo's 80s prom. So this is 80s crew in our sweet spot. There was one particular catch. Well, 2 really. Amber was doing a work conversion and she had to go to their headquarters, which is in Columbus, about 2 hours away. So no Amber. And then our drummer, Nathan, had already booked a sub gig with another group months in advance and just wasn't able to do it. So I got a recommendation for a drummer from another guy who plays in another group with me and never met this drummer before, but we got on a call and he asked the right questions and had the right attitude. And I just kind of left him to his own devices to prep for things after we had like an initial Zoom call about starts and stops. And so we did the gig and he crushed it. And the funny thing was because of the weather, our drummer's gig also got canceled. So he came to the gig.
Nice.
And actually helped us set things up and basically teched for the other drummer, which was an interesting situation. Like, I don't know how I would feel as a sub to have the guy who does the job, like just standing out there, you know, watching me.
Right.
It's gotta be a bit intimidating, but he crushed. It was phenomenal.
That's great.
And I was very, very, very clear how much I appreciated what a good job he did and his attitude and everything. And he's definitely going to be the first call after first call backs out,
Yep.
He's top of the sub list.
That's great. That's great. Amazing to find people like that, right? Just can drop in, don't take a lot of lift to get stage ready and nail it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very clear. I'm like, hey, these are the expectations, whatever. And he's like, I was trying to give him a little bit of leeway because, he didn't have a lot of time to prep. And I was like, there's certain things that need to be there. He's like, oh no, I'm going to try and make it like 100% on everything. But if like, there's things you want me to like pay particular attention to, that's fine. And I was like, oh, okay. So I pointed out one thing, and that was pretty much it. And he showed up and just dominated, like destroyed. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. But Amber not being there also sucked in its own way, because 2 hours with no break of that material is pretty rough. And I chose to cover some of her stuff just so that it wasn't too one-sided. So I Think We're Alone Now and Hit Me With Your Best Shot, and what was the other one? I Love Rock and Roll. Oh, and We Got the Beat. So yeah, there was I was covering a lot of ground, and my ending on Don't Stop Believing was kind of rough. There was very little in the tank as we were, shuffling off the stage. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And this week is the 90s gig. I'm hoping to get a practice in. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Amber and I kind of went through and retooled the order and threw some stuff in that we had done before, but hadn't necessarily made the cut. The big issue was primarily that Joey and I were just like sending songs that we liked. We're like, oh, what about this one? Oh, what about this one? And we totally kind of lost the forest through the trees and picked a bunch of stuff that I would have had to spend a lot of time working on.
Right.
So it's a bit more focused and a little less labor intensive. So all good things. And
good.
Unless it rains again, hoping to get this done this coming Friday.
Yeah. Good.
All right. So let's move into reviews. We've got a couple of them in the tank now. So this one comes from Apple Podcasts. This is Dean, 5 stars, says, I'm late to the game, but awesome.
Yes, you are.
I can't believe it took me so long to find this, but now I'm addicted to the show. It's amazing. A great resource for gigging musicians like me. It's nice to hear about new gear, new ideas, and because misery loves company, to hear the occasional horror story. Take a listen. You won't be sorry. Dean, big thanks to Dean for saying some nice stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Dean.
So if you want to hear your name on the podcast, leave a review, and we'll keep reading them out.
Yeah.
I really like when we have reviews to say.
Yeah, it's good.
So let's keep doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. We're shifting gears hard. This is...
And carefully.
This is something...
We're shifting gears hard and carefully.
Yes. So if you follow me on any socials, you will have known that I had a video go kind of viral on TikTok and a couple of other platforms, making a joke about how every sticker company in the United States all of a sudden had to scramble and put a bunch of paid ads out because they had this immense opportunity due to a particular situation with, I would say, the majority stakeholder market share company.
For sure.
Sticker Mule.
Yeah.
So, Dan, do you want to kind of explain that for those who may not be familiar?
Yeah, and I just let me preface it by saying there's every risk that we're going to make exactly the same mistake they did here in this conversation. We're trying to be really, really, really careful and not sort of establish a position like was done there. But when we get into it, you'll understand the challenge around that. So, our politics in this country of the United States of America, I know we have listeners overseas who are probably watching us with some level of aghastness. I don't know.
Probably.
But things hit a new low a week or so ago in American politics. And that's really what I'm going to say about that. But in apparent response to that, the CEO of Stickermule sent out social posts and emails to his customer mailing list. It was an interesting message because it was entirely partisan. It was entirely aimed at supporting his direction of politics, wrapped in some language about kumbaya, we need to calm it down, and can't we all get along, and we should get along by supporting my candidate. That's pretty much what the message was.
Well, and it's interesting because when I saw the first post, it didn't have that last bit in it that was kind of, I think, the sticking point. And I sent it to you, and I was like, this is kind of interesting. What are your thoughts on this? And you were just kind of like, I don't know. And I honestly was just kind of like, okay, it's not really a great idea to put your personal politics on your business socials. But I was like, okay, whatever. And was ready to move on. But when the email came in, it was much more pointed.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should support my guy.
Yeah. And by the way, buy my product to show your support for my guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting detail about that we can circle back to and why that was in there.
All right. I'll say I also got that same messaging from them by text. I'm on their text list too. So I got it on all channels. And it's fair to say the backlash to this move on their part has been significant.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say that they definitely got a lot of attention and probably not in the way that they were hoping.
Right.
That being said, they have been very busy in their comments, kind of doubling down on
leaning into the, if you don't like it, get out. They've gone all in on this messaging.
Yeah.
And by my rough count, their Instagram has lost something like 30,000 followers this week.
Yep. There's been some tangible consequences of what they did. And let's start at the very beginning here. If you own a business, if you are in charge of something, if you are a person that exists in this world, you are 100% within your right to say whatever it is you want to say about your personal politics and the candidates that you support
100%.
and the things that you care the most about. But there are good reasons why those things don't belong out in public.
Yeah.
You have every good example of that.
You have every right to say whatever you want to say. This is America, But the consequences are not something you can avoid. You're going to have repercussions to the things that you say. And, I think that they are feeling those repercussions. I think that when their sales numbers come in for this quarter, those repercussions are going to be real clear. I know that there were a number of people, including me, who sent messages to their support department saying, please delete my account, delete all imagery and personal information you have on me. I do not trust you with it anymore.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting part of that too, because there's a lot of people talking about how they unsubscribed to their email list and then got follow-up emails.
Oh, I guess that unsubscribed happened because I went to try to log in to my account on their website and it didn't log me in. So that was great. Mm-hmm. But what I did get was a survey from them saying, hey, tell us your thoughts about Sticker Mule and our customer support. And I just declined to respond to that. I wasn't going to pour fuel on it. There's plenty of fuel being poured. My drop is not going to make much difference.
But speaking of drops though, their website is set up so that real-time reviews show up on their website.
Yep.
So if you went to their corporate page, all this negative stuff is right there.
Yeah.
Which I cannot stress how poorly they handled this situation. Because let's get one thing out of the way. This was not necessary.
Right.
There was no person or force compelling them to say anything.
No.
So this is 100% self-inflicted. And then they didn't do anything to try and at least make it look like things were fine.
Yeah.
So they didn't, to my knowledge, they weren't like deleting negative comments. Not that they could. They didn't take that off of their website. Like I saw it at least 2 days after
it's still up. It's still up. If you go back in the and they generate a lot of good reviews because their products have been pretty okay. But
sure.
If you go back a few days, you start to see the bleeding in their reviews. And I think maybe that's a choice to leave all that, like, look at these deranged, people who come out of the woodwork to try and suppress my freedom to speak or something. I don't know. It's trying to unwind the thinking of leaving that up like that is, I don't know. There are a lot of possible motivations there.
Yeah. And the thing that sticks with me is that whether that is the narrative that you use or not, the reality of your business dropping considerably doesn't necessarily fit that narrative. That's not the important part of why the business is all of a sudden not doing good.
Because it's entirely a self-inflicted wound. 100%. And there will be some people who agree and I support you and I'm going to buy a sticker, but those aren't your recurring, regular, if you shed 30,000 people who follow you and of those, however many convert regularly, there's not going to be a wave of support that's going to buoy you back up. Not maybe this quarter's results, but not next quarter. So right. There's a long-term impact to this. And I did see in some of the comments on their Insta that it read like a quote from an article, and I have not seen the article, but it was like a copy and paste from something that was unnamed people inside the company saying, we're afraid for our jobs. He does not speak for us. You know, part of the first message was like, we believe in all kinds of things here at Sticker Mule, but support my guy. So yeah, I think it's an ugly situation inside and out.
Yeah. And again, totally not necessary.
No.
But the biggest thing for me though is it seems like just a fundamental misunderstanding of their customer base.
Yeah.
Because bands need stickers.
Yes.
And so do like companies, but a lot of creative folks who tend to not align with that particular set of politics are going to be a large portion of your customer base.
Yeah.
And there are anecdotal stories about the company sending back proofs with derogatory terms and stuff on them. Like to me, it's a top-down issue.
I hadn't heard that.
We don't have to get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Not great.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, like, again, you're fully able to run your business the way you feel like it should be run.
And message from it however you see fit.
But this is a bad way to run your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you believe.
Yep.
And in going through this and kind of talking with Dan and other folks in the Patreon community, first off, there's always a particular type of person that is going to do this kind of thing. And there just always seems to be this situation where somebody decides that what they believe is so important that they need to share it with people, and they do it under the auspices of their job, their company, or say things that don't necessarily reflect the views of their employer, and then there are consequences.
Yeah.
You know, you can end up with issues with your online presence where people start giving you crappy reviews. You can get fired. Like, there's so many reasons why you should not do this kind of thing.
Right. Right. Let alone, like, even internally, even like as an HR matter, a leader saying, "Oh yeah, I mean, we're all get together. Hey, even to mention, like, everybody loves Candidate A," and then half of the room is like, "Wow, I guess I'm not everyone. Like, this, do I belong here?" It causes all kinds of problems in staff relations too. Listen, there's a big takeaway here that I want to just tie back to all the things I've said over the years about branding, because if you contrast this with another provider of things, there's a company called Penzeys Spices, and they're maybe the best online spice company that there is, and their particular direction of politics has been baked into their brand from the very beginning. I mean, the very beginning. You can't order from them without realizing who you're ordering from and what they stand for. It's really clear, and it's in their messaging. It's baked in deep, and always has been. So for them, a message of politics that's built into the weekly customer email, it's going to land on a self-selected agreeing audience, and B, they expect that. They already expect that. They know the deal with these guys, and either you agree and you're haha rah-rah on board, or you kind of know that's them, whatever, but their garlic powder's really great, which it is. That's one thing. And it's also valid, by the way, for a brand to have, for a band's brand to have politics baked into it. That's the thing. I played with a band that was explicitly political. We performed at March for Science. That was kind of in response to some science denialism that was happening at that time. And it was explicitly political. We did it. And not everyone in the band agreed with that. But we all kind of got on board and were there for the gig and had a great time. And that's how that band was. It was political from its inception and very clear about that. And if that was going to be a problem, sorry. I don't think we said a lot about it from the stage, but the choices we made around places we play and stuff like that made it clear. My current project, if you ask me what party we belong to, we're card-carrying members of the Cocktail Party.
There you go.
So, we're deliberately not, and our personnel reflects a broad range of views, right? So there's something about this thing that happened with Sticker Mule where their brand was never political until this moment when it really, really was. And that's bad when it's politics, right? But it's also bad branding. You've just told a lie. You've made a lie out of your brand promise. And I think that's the fact that it happened inside politics, which is already like a freaking forest fire.
Third rail.
Yeah. But it wouldn't have to be. Anything that turns your brand promise into a lie is gonna have a really bad reaction. Just know that. And it's possible to pivot a brand, but boy, it really takes some careful thinking and some eating of the consequences. And I don't think that's what this is. I don't think this was considered that way at all.
Yeah. And in our world, we're basically customer service.
Yep.
And that is you as a player, you're in the customer service industry. I say all of that to say that you need to kind of take the pulse of your customers. You kind of need to know what they're expecting from you. And at this, like you were saying, they basically were doing these things under the auspices that they were an apolitical entity. And then however far along in the story
this week,
it feels like a betrayal because
yes.
The trust is eroded and there is no, like, if you saw that and you decided I'm not going to do business with this company anymore, there's probably not anything that they could do at this point to win back their business.
No. Look, I said it in episode 5. A brand is a promise. It's a promise of the particular experience you are going to have as a consumer when you interact with my products and services and other offerings. It's a promise. And if that promise gets broken, then the same impact happens as any promise getting broken. Trust is gone.
Yeah, the relationship.
Yeah. The relationship's destroyed, trust is gone. And it doesn't have to be politics. That could happen anywhere. If I've made the brand promise that I am professional to schedule gigs with, and then suddenly I'm like not confirming and ghosting on you when you try to follow up, I'm breaking a promise, and that's going to have an impact on your willingness to continue working with me. For sure, politics is like a huge part of what we're talking about here, but it's also ties in really critically with this whole concept of brand as a promise. And I think it just got badly broken here. It got badly broken and then leaned into that break. Like it was, I broke my promise to you and screw you about that was kind of the message.
Yeah. Well, and I say this all the time, and I don't know what it's going to take for people to latch onto it, but you are a brand.
Yeah.
Your personal brand is a thing. And whether you know what it is or you're just doing what you're doing, that brand exists. So having intention behind that is a good thing.
Yeah.
And in my previous job, I worked in a church ministry for a very well-known preacher. And he's got his own particular approach to things, but he talks a lot about influence and that politics is not necessarily the right place to lose influence unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Because you say something on whatever end of the spectrum that you're on, and you're immediately putting yourself in opposition to the people that are around you.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Don't do that. Or don't do it.
You don't have to do that.
Don't do it. I like his word. Don't do it unnecessarily. Right. There's you've said that many times in our conversations, and it's had me think in new ways about influence and leverage as a currency. Right. Mm-hmm. You know, if I have prominence in an industry or something and people listen to me, and I then can kind of burn some of that value in service of some response, some reaction, some outcome that I want, that's a transaction that I can choose to make. And it may be necessary. And that's all right if I make that assessment, right? But burning it for something as ephemeral in the big picture as politics, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be done with this election season in a few months, and then we'll be into whatever comes next, which I can't predict, but whatever it'll be. But, you know, is it worth whatever long-term impact of my having shown something unattractive to some slice of my followers for something that's got a few months worth of value? Maybe.
Yeah. And circling back to what we were talking about before, a lot of people were really upset at we're now offering X, this particular sale or deal.
You had some cut at that. I'm not aware of.
So my understanding is that because of the way that they acquired that contact list, they are not allowed to send obliquely political content to the people on that distribution.
Huh.
So in order to subvert that, because there's a lot of people saying that there's some potential of some law breaking in the way that was handled.
Yeah.
But by putting a promotion in, you kind of sidestep that. So they're trying to kind of have it both ways. I don't know if it will, that'll pass the sniff test, but
I am aware of some FCC policies that they might be violating, some campaign finance and campaign stuff that may be as well. So yeah, making it a sales pitch also burns your brand, but makes it legal.
Again, I don't feel like there was any strategy involved in any of this. And I understand something very dramatic happened and people got very emotional.
Yes.
There's a lot of heated discussions and a lot of text chains on my end. And I understand feeling like the moment deserves your 2 cents.
Yeah.
And I can assure you that the world does not need to hear it.
No.
Some of the people in your direct orbit may need to hear it, but otherwise you don't have to do that.
No.
And it doesn't mean that you're not being honest. It doesn't mean that you are being not genuine. It's just saving certain things for your personal one-on-one relationships.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Like I am a person who is very online, but there's still very large amounts of information about my day-to-day and my family stuff that just people aren't going to know about because I don't talk about it.
Yeah. They don't,
and that's not what I'm here for.
They don't need to.
And I speak vaguely about lots of things all the time on this show.
Yeah. And there's, the people whose brand is to not, mommy influencers and such. I hope they're healthy. It doesn't seem healthy.
Yeah, that's a
topic for another day, I think. But I guess to circle it back to our main, years old thesis here. If you're a band that says things on stage, don't say these things.
Yeah.
Unless you've always said those things and your audience expects it from you. Don't. Now's not now seems like a particular time, but it's not.
Yeah. If you are in the world that we are in, you are in the entertainment industry.
That's right.
And your job is to entertain.
Yep.
And your job isn't to entertain 50% of the room. It's to entertain 100% of the room.
That's right.
Do you think by talking about these kinds of things, you are giving yourself the opportunity to entertain everybody in the room? No? Well, then maybe don't do it. That's how I feel.
I agree.
And I would say if you disagree to email us at coverbandconfidential.com, or that's actually not even right. So yes, email us there because it won't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared of the comments on this one.
It was definitely, I was a bit hesitant to tackle the
You didn't want
subject.
to. You didn't want to at all.
Yeah, I think I was a pretty hard no.
You were.
But I think it's worth repeating. And if somebody sends an email and says, how that thing where you could have just said you should have just kept your mouth shut? Well, you should have taken your own advice. I will 100%,
100% accept that is, we're not following our rule here.
Yeah. Anywho, I hope that if you have felt a way about things regarding just the general temperature of our country, at least, just know that you're not the only one, and that hopefully this is some solid guidance.
For sure. And if you felt a certain way listening to this, I hope you will forgive us.
I don't know how many times we have to repeat this. Like, we are trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
That is all we are here to do.
Yeah. And we've given people advice they haven't liked before. And the general feedback has been like, hey, when I tried that, it was helpful. So.
Yeah. Sometimes, and honestly, I think that's a big part of the Patreon situation is that, like, there's some tough love in there every once in a while.
Yep.
It's like, hey, and people go there to seek it. Because they know that the person that they're talking to is already successful and knows what they're talking about and is not emotionally invested in whatever it is that's going on.
Right.
So you're able to get, you'll get some tough love, and it's also a place where people are very open and honest when things don't go right. And that it's kind of a safe spot to be.
Yeah. If you're someone who's interested in growing what you do, including if that means getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
It's a good spot for you to come have that conversation.
Getting out of your own way is definitely, there's been a lot.
Yeah.
We've had that conversation a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you'd like to support the show after listening to everything that we said, you can do any of the things that Mike's about to talk about, but I'll go ahead and call it for this week. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, hoping we threaded the needle, I'm Dan Ray.
You've been listening to the Cover Band Confidential podcast for the week of July 26th, 2024.